Today, we're going to discuss how you can go from zero to $1 million wholesaling real estate. My name is Brandon from Vegas. We have our guest speaker on, Mr. Ray Rodriguez.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys.
And of course, as always, our lender, Mr. Bill Gaylord. How you doing, Bill?
Doing awesome.
We had Ray on a few episodes ago. So, Ray, for those who didn't watch, please remind them who you are, what's your age, and how long you've been doing this.
Yeah, my name is Ray Rodriguez. Right now, I'm the manager at your local Burger King. And no, even though that would be really amazing because I love Burger King. But my name is Ray. I'm 25. I wholesale and flip houses here in Las Vegas. Also own a couple of rental properties. And today I have the pleasure of hanging out with these awesome gentlemen who somehow brought me back on their show to talk more about what we do in real estate.
Ray, how old are you?
I'm 25.
And how much would you say you've made so far wholesaling real estate?
A little over 2 million.
There you guys go. What we always tell you guys here on the channel is I don't care what your age is. It's never too early or never too late to start with this business. Ray, is wholesaling something you went to school for?
No, it's not.
Is it something that it took you, 4 years to learn the skills of wholesaling?
Nope.
Did it cost you a bunch of money to learn these skills?
Ooh, technically, I guess it depends, right? So you can learn all the basics, like with what we're going to talk about today or what we talked about last episode. I mean, that's enough to probably make you at least 200 grand a year, right? And so that doesn't cost you anything. Now, for me, yes, I do recommend like paying for coaching once you get to like a certain level and you want to do more wholesaling, more flips. But if you're not making 200 grand a year right now, you don't have to worry about spending any money on, so if you're a beginner, you don't have to worry about spending a dime to, start making a decent income.
Okay, I like that. What we're going to run through today are the 10 most commonly asked questions about wholesaling. It's something that a lot of people are interested in, but as with most things, they're afraid to start. I sound like Mike Tyson, most things. As with most things, just start. They're afraid to start. So what we're going to show them today is all the things they don't need to be afraid of by answering questions from someone who's doing this live, right? So the very first question, the number one question asked to real estate wholesalers, are you ready for this? Is wholesaling real estate legal?
Yeah, it's absolutely legal. Now, some states will require a real estate license for wholesaling.
But Las Vegas is not one of those.
Can we back up? What is wholesaling?
Yeah, so wholesaling is simply selling a contract to purchase a property or to purchase anything really. So let's say I own a house and Bill approaches me saying he wants to buy it off of me. We agree on $100,000. So he signs a contract that says that he can buy the house or assign his rights to somebody else, which I'll explain that in a second. And I sign that same contract that says, hey, I will sell you this property for $100,000. Then Bill reaches out to you because you're saying, hey, I'm a fix and flipper, I'm a landlord, I want to buy a property. And Bill says, hey, Brandon, well, why don't you buy this one for $120,000? You take a look at the numbers and you decide that for you, it makes sense. It's a good investment for you at $120,000. So there's a certain close of escrow date that Bill and I already agreed upon. So on that day, let's say it's February 25th, whatever. I think that's my uncle's birthday, by the way. But anyway, you will show up to the closing table with $120,000. I will get the $100,000 that Bill promised to me, and he gets the $20,000 difference between what he negotiated with me and what he negotiated with you. So that's essentially what wholesaling is. You essentially present yourself as a buyer, but you have your purchase agreement, your contract say that you can either buy that property yourself or you can sell that contract to somebody else as long as that person fulfills the obligations of the contract.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what it is.
So for me as a wholesaler, I don't have to put any real money down.
No.
Maybe something to hold it as an earnest money deposit.
Well, that's actually funny, Bill. That's actually funny because you're leading into question number two.
I got ahead of this still. Okay.
That's okay. You're leading into question number two. And to me, this should be question number one. How is it that I can buy a property if I have no money? How do I go from $0 to $1 million if I have no money?
Okay, yeah. So I'll answer that, and then I'll answer Bill's question, and then I'll answer yours, just because I think it flows better that way. But yes, you can, to like hold it in escrow. You can put your earnest money in. And that's kind of what I was doing when I first started out. Maybe I had like 2 or 3 grand from my W-2. But what I do now that I have more than 2 or 3 grand, is I don't even do that unless I personally plan on flipping the house myself. We just put in the contract that the earnest money isn't due until X amount of time. And then I'll just make sure to find a buyer before that time period, and I'll have them put the earnest money in since they're the one who's going to buy it anyway. So I really try not, and even when I am going to buy the house, I still don't put any earnest money in. I raise the money, which I'll talk more about in a second to answer your question, but I'll raise the money to buy the house from somebody else, and then I'll make that person put the earnest money in. That way, I feel comfortable and secure that on closing day they're going to send the rest of the money. They'll send the $250,000 or whatnot. Because if I'm putting the earnest money in, and let's say we've never done a deal together before, you've never lent me money to purchase a property before, I don't want to find myself in a situation where the night before close of escrow, you're like, hey, sorry, buddy, I'm not sending over the, $250,000 anymore. So now I have a couple hours to go find all this money. Not a very fun situation for me to be in.
Sure.
So
Have you been in that situation before?
thankfully not. At least not that I can think of. So, I mean, maybe it's happened, but I'm pretty good at raising money. So if it has happened, I was like probably able to pull it off, and that's why I don't remember. But I'm gonna say no, and hopefully I don't have to be in that situation. But anyway, to answer your question, how would I get started in real estate without any money? Well, actually, they're both equally as hard, but you can get into wholesaling, which is what we just described in that example, where if I want to sell my house for $100,000, I have a contract with Bill to sell it for $100,000. He finds you. You could be the Bill in that example. You could go be a matchmaker and find, a seller with a property that they're willing to sell at a discount, a buyer who's willing to pay more than whatever contracted price is. And there you go. You can make some money that way, and that doesn't cost you any money at all. But you're not actually buying a house, because your question, you asked me, how would you buy a house without any money? Well, I mean, I buy houses without any money all the time. How do you do that? Well, the same principles apply. You need to go find someone who will sell their property at a discount. Reason being, you're not going to be able to sell a house for more than what it's worth. So if every house in the neighborhood is selling for $400,000, you can't go pay $400,000 and expect to sell it for $600,000. It doesn't work that way.
100%.
So you need to get it for below $400,000 so that you can sell it for what everything in that neighborhood is selling for. Maybe you can sell it for $20,000 to $25,000 more if you're fully upgraded, but for the most part, you're not going to be, selling a house for $500,000 in a $400,000 neighborhood. You might get away with like $420,000, $425,000, something like that.
100%. And you still have to factor in things like when you sell it, you have to pay commissions, you have to pay transfer taxes, escrow fees, right? All that goes into it. So you have to get quite the discount on the house to make it worth it on the back end.
Exactly.
Right?
So typically, for rough numbers, and I have a ton of videos on my YouTube channel about this. If you want
plug
to
the YouTube. Plug the YouTube.
Yeah, it's just if you want to be a subscriber number like 500, it's Ray R. Rodriguez. If you just type that in, it should pop up, or maybe not, because there's like barely any followers on it. But there's a lot of good free information in there.
Free information.
Yeah, we see a bunch of wholesalers on TikTok all the time that are giving really bad information. Ray is somebody that I personally follow because he's giving you guys genuine details on how he did this. He's not getting it from a friend of a friend. He's legitimately doing this business every day. Most realtors in Vegas know this guy, so make sure you guys go follow him.
Appreciate it. So you found a property at a 30% discount, but you still, and roughly, I want to recommend like a 30% discount, at least here in Las Vegas. In other markets, it varies market to market. So if you're in a really cheap market, like I have some friends out in like these really small towns in like Virginia or whatnot, you probably need the house at like a 60% discount. Because I mean, if a house is only, if fully renovated, right, the house is only going to sell for like 80, 90, $100,000. And you need to put like 30 grand of work into it. You can't buy
Where's
it
the margins?
you can't buy it for
margins?
70,000, put 30,000 into it. Like, you're not going to make any money. So it's very market dependent. If you're in like a cheaper, one of those markets, you might need the house like 80% off. I'm not even joking. If the house is in that neighborhood sell for 100,000 and you need to put 40 grand of work into it, you might only be able to pay 20 grand for the property. So it really depends. But then I have friends in California that, they can make it work with like a 15% discount because it's $1 million resale. So it's very market dependent. And I actually have a free calculator that you can find, or just DM me and I'll send you the calculator. You'll plug in what you're going to sell the house for, what the renovation expenses are, and like what you can purchase it, and you'll kind of figure out what you can pay for a property that way. So you found a property at a discount here in Vegas, roughly a 30% discount. If it's worth 400 grand, you found it for, let's say, 280, but you don't have 280. What do? Well, you need to go find the money. And that's like, duh, but how do you find the money? Well, There's a few different ways. So you can either choose to be a partner with someone who's already a fix and flipper, which is how I started. And so that person, his job, my job was to go find the properties at a discount. His job was to go talk to the people who let him borrow money and go get them to let him borrow money so that we could go buy this property together. So I didn't have any connections with two people with money, but he did. He had already flipped a couple hundred homes. So my job was to go find properties. He would determine, he would pick the ones that were actually a good deal, and then he would say, yes, we're going to buy this. He would reach out to the people who already trusted him with their hard-earned money. They would let him borrow the money. We would buy the house together, and then he would give me a cut of the profit after we paid everybody back. So that is one way, you know, if you're like, wow, instead of being a wholesaler, I'd rather get some of the profit from the flip of this property. You can just go partner with a local investor. If you're in Las Vegas, reach out to me, or if you're in a different market than somebody else. But you can go partner with someone who's already flipping houses and have that person go do all the heavy lifting of like raising the money, taking care of the construction, all that. But if you don't want to partner up with anybody, you want to do it completely on your own, well, then it's going to be your job to find the money. How do you do that? Well, you can go into real estate investing Facebook groups. There's a ton of people in there who have money, and they're looking for people who have deals, and they're willing to let you borrow money.
Let me pause you real quick, Ray, because you are literally speed running, dude. Ray, like I've never met somebody so willing to give away valuable information as this guy. Honestly, it's. Most people will literally try to delay the satisfaction to get somewhere, and you're literally giving them everything at once, right? So you actually covered a bit of the next two questions. One was, how do I find motivated sellers?
Okay.
When you were at zero, nothing, when you were just starting at the beginning, you couldn't tell your ass from your end. Where were you finding sellers? And then how are you finding them now that you have some experience under your belt?
And to me, that would have been probably the hardest, hardest part.
Oh, yeah. So finding the deal is way harder than anything else. I mean, I have people on my phone or like in my contacts that message me all the time. I mean, even at like 11 p.m. last night, I had one of my lenders message me saying, hey, I have, I'm ready to fund another one of your deals. And I'm like, sorry, man, like everything that I have right now is already funded. Because I have a little less than 100 people on my notes app that have committed to at least investing $100,000 whenever I need it. And and most of those people are way above $100,000. Most of them are closer to 300. But let's just be conservative and say 100 people each had $100,000. What's that? Like $10 million. I never have $10 million worth of properties at once. That I would love that. You know, I would love to be in that situation. But that would be like 40 houses a month, and we're just we're nowhere near that. So yeah, that's probably.
Do you combine investors, or do you keep it
if
separate?
I need to? Because most of the people that are on my list, they like our average person funds us up to like $283,000 or something. So if the property that I'm purchasing plus the renovation amount is going to be less than $283,000, then I probably don't need more than one person. But let's say I've used up everybody on my list who has closer to that amount. And the people I have whose money I still haven't used yet are people with $100,000 apiece. Then in a situation like that, yes, I will go ahead and combine some people. But for the most part, I mean, 99% of the time, I'll just call one person per deal. Like I'll call you for like our Apple Street deal, then I'll call you for our Main Street deal. And
I don't want to get you in trouble, but do you rank your cash buyers? Like, are they in tiers?
Oh, yeah.
Like, here's my number one go-to call.
Yeah,
like, this is
sure.
my ace. This is my dude.
Yeah, so I do that for.
It sounds like you have a booty call list, right? Like, here's the girl I call at 12. Okay, well, she didn't answer. Here's the one I call after that. And then here's like my desperation call.
Funny. So yeah, I have so cash buyers, like when I'm wholesaling properties, yes, there's certainly some people that I would call before others. And then same when I'm the person who is flipping the property, there's certain people who fund my deals who I would call before others as well. For instance,
It's not your top girl. That's your number one.
yeah. For sure. So it just depends. And even with realtors that I'm reaching out to sell me properties, there's certain realtors I'll reach out to before other realtors. So yeah, I definitely have some of like my VIP people, if you want to call it that.
What makes certain cash buyers and certain realtors higher up on the booty call list than the others? What makes them like, this is my go-to person?
Yeah. So when I'm wholesaling a property, there's the guy that I call first on pretty much all of my wholesales. And here's what I like about him. And so I'll share this because every single day I get people DMing me saying, hey, Ray, can I be on your cash buyers list? And I'll add people to the list, but it's really tough to top this guy. So here's what I really like about him. And if someone wants to be a cash buyer, either for my deals or anybody's deals, these are just some things that I like as a wholesaler that really gives this guy some preferential treatment. So once he gives me a number, that is the number that he'll stick to. And granted, are there times where he'll go out to the property and it needs more work than what we had anticipated and that number changes? Of course. But something that really annoys me about some other flippers is, let's say, a realtor sends me a property saying, hey, Ray, I'm going on this listing appointment, or hey, Ray, I have this pocket listing. What would you pay for this property? And I know it's a property that I really don't want to buy myself. There's just certain things that I don't touch. But there's another investor who will take care of that. So I'll send that property out to him and I say, hey, based on these photos or this description of the amount of renovation the property needs, what would you need to pay for it? And let's say he tells me $300,000, right? I'll go tell the realtor like, hey, I need to be at, let's say, 280. That way I get the contract at 280. I'll assign it over for 300. And it's not always 20K. Sometimes, sometimes it's a lot less. Sometimes it's a lot more, but just call it a $20,000 average. I will send him I will let him know, hey, we got this property under contract now. He will stick to that 300 number, assuming the condition is the same as I had described it in. But something that really annoys me, there's other people who I've tried that with as well. I say, hey, we're working on this lead right now. Where would you need it? They'll say 300,000. I'll go tell the realtor, I need it at 280, 290, whatever, so I can make my spread. And then we get the property under contract. I reach back out to that buyer. And without even going to look at the property, without anything changing, it's like, I think I need it now closer to like 250. I'm like, dude, that is really, really tough for me because I have to go back to that realtor who my job is to build a great relationship with that person, make it super easy so they continue bringing us like repeat business. It makes it really tough to do that when you're changing your number on me like that. And so there's some people who do that, and
they get moved down the booty call list.
Yeah, and
you're the B tier. Yeah.
And so they're not. I never get the impression that they're doing that on purpose. Like that, they're not doing that. Like, oh, let me.
It's definitely a negotiation tactic. It's definitely a negotiation tactic.
But it gets filed away up here.
Yeah, for sure. And so I have someone who buys a decent amount of my deals and they pay really good prices. But sometimes they're like playing that game, and it makes it really tough to make you my first call, especially if I already have a relationship with this agent. I'm not trying to make you look bad in front of your seller, because if I make you look bad in front of your seller, it's really, it's not going to be, I'm not going to be the person you want to keep calling. Yeah. So that's a really long answer to your question, but that is something that's one thing I really like about this guy. I will reach out to him with the property, and once he gives me a number, like that's the number, so I can feel confident. And then another thing that I like about him, any wholesaler is going to like this, but he will pay really good prices. So if I have, let's say, X amount of people interested in this property, typically he's going to be higher than most people. We have one that's closing tomorrow that I don't even know how, but it was kind of weird. Typically, the people who offered me like the lease for this property offered me like way more than what he offered, which that surprised me, but whatever. And so he offers good prices. He sticks to the number that he offered. Pays cash. Don't have to worry about this like super long hard money loan and all this annoying things. And just an overall like pleasant person to work with. I sold one deal to somebody else a while back ago because he had offered like a lot more money than anybody else. And he closed and he paid cash and all those fun things. But oh my gosh, it was such a headache to work with this guy. And I haven't sent him anything since. And sure, we made a little bit more money selling the deal to him, but it wasn't worth it. The other stuff.
Yeah, all money isn't good money.
No.
Right.
And so that's how I try to be myself as well when I'm buying properties, because this guy, he buys way more properties than I do. I probably buy, we do maybe 8 to 10 transactions a month. Probably 4 of them I'm actually buying. So I'll buy maybe one house a week, and then the other 5 to 6 properties that we do any given month, I'm just wholesaling to somebody else. So when I'm buying, my 4 properties a month or so, I try to be just like this other guy who's buying like 40 properties a
Yeah,
month.
yeah, yeah.
And, you know, I give a number, I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to stick to my word. I'm going to close quickly. I'm not playing any games. And so I try to be like him, because that's how I like when, you know, when I'm wholesaling.
It's
yeah.
like any other business. If you provide me with consistent, easy income, I'm always going to give you the best deals first.
Right.
Right? I have certain agents that I work with, and when I list a house, they're the first people I call because I like working with them. They bring quality buyers, so I'm definitely willing to be more negotiable with them than I am with a random agent.
Yep.
Right? Because I know that their buyers are good for the money. There's nothing worse than going under contract with somebody, wasting 14 days on pictures, this, marketing, negotiations, and then they just cancel on you. You're like, well, you just wasted so much time and money from both sides, right? It wasn't worth negotiating with you.
Right.
So the second most important question, as you've mentioned, is how do I find motivated sellers, right? How do I find somebody who has a $300,000 house and is willing to sell it to me for $240,000?
Yeah. So that actually wouldn't even be a good enough deal, but yeah, a $300,000 house would probably need it for like 190, 200 to be completely honest with you. But anyway, there's three ways that you can really go about doing this. So number one, and really it's just like any other business, pick who you want to be your ideal customer, right? So you're a lender, you're probably, I mean, I really don't know too much about like, you know, your industry, but you're probably not spending a lot of your time marketing to sellers. I would assume not. Probably to people who want to buy a home or to realtors, like I would assume. But a realtor like yourself, you're probably spending you're more than happy to talk to a potential seller. So it's really just like any other business. You got to pick who your customer is going to be. So in my space, where we're looking for discounted properties, you can market directly to homeowners, see if they want to sell their property, find out what the situation is, find out what the condition of that property is, and then you can go direct to homeowner and put that property under contract. You can go direct to wholesalers. So if you want to be a flipper, you can just market to a ton of wholesalers and say, hey, Mr. Mrs. Wholesaler, I'm a flipper. I'm looking to buy some properties. Let me know what you have. And so you can go find a discounted property that way. If you are actually going to flip it yourself, you can buy it off a wholesaler. What I do, I mean, I do a decent amount of the wholesaler reach out as well, but most of my deals are from marketing to realtors. You're a realtor. If you had to guess, how many people, how many homeowners, how many sellers do you have in like your book of business or like in your database, like potential sellers for you?
Oh God, I've lost count.
Like just a rough number.
Mine's a bit ridiculous. I'm probably at like 3,600 plus.
Okay, perfect. So, you know, a couple thousand, 3,600 people. And they're, you know, you're doing really well for yourself, but you're obviously not the only agent in Vegas who has, you know, 3,500 potential sellers like in their back pocket. And so if I reach out to you, and I just say, hey, Brandon, this is what I'm looking to purchase. Do you have anything? That's essentially as if I just kind of talked to 3,600 people, more or less, because even though I haven't spoken with them, you at least have knowledge of 3,600 properties. And if I'm saying, hey, I'm looking for this specifically, maybe there's someone out of those 3,600 who fits that criteria, or maybe not. But if I talk to enough realtors, and each of them, let's just say they each have 3,500 people in the book of business, which a lot, of course, will have a lot less. Some may have more. I don't know. But if I talk to 2 realtors, that's essentially as if I just saved myself from having to talk to 7,000 people. So that's what I prefer to do. I prefer to talk to realtors who are, in a way, kind of doing the work for me. They're spending all day, you know, calling homeowners, looking for listings, looking for business for themselves. Perfect. Let me just reach out to that realtor who just spent all morning cold calling homeowners saying, hey, do you want to sell your property? And I'll just call that realtor who just spoke with 50 people before lunchtime. And, you know, if they're like, oh yeah, I just spoke with 50 people. This one person I have a listing appointment with, sounds like the roof is caving in and it might be better suited for a cash buyer. So if I go talk to 50 agents in one day and each of those agents has already spoken with 50 homeowners, that's, you know, that's my business model. So to answer your question, there's really 3 ways you can go find these motivated sellers. You can go direct to seller yourself. To do that, you're going to go to websites such as like PropStream or Batch Leads, or even your local county assessor, and you're going to get a list of people who own property in that county. You can even, on some of these websites like PropStream, Batch Leads, I'm not sure if I said I'm not affiliated with them, but I'm not, if I didn't say that already. You're going to pay them like $150 a month, and you can punch in your county or your city and then what you're looking for. So you want people who have, let's say you put in there people that have at least 30% equity in their homes, people over this age, people who have owned the property for this amount of time, people who own the property but they don't live in it, people who own a property but they don't live in the same state that they own the property. You can get a list of all those people. You can you'll pay for that list, you'll download it, then you'll upload that list into what's called a skip tracer. The skip tracer is when you punch in an address and it'll spit out the homeowner's contact info. So if I type in 123 Apple Street, it'll say Bill Gaylord owns this property. This is his phone number. This is his email. So you and it's only a couple pennies per property. I mean, it adds up. But you download the list, you upload it into the skip tracer. It'll give you everybody's name, phone number, email address. You go pay for a phone calling system like a dialer, such as like a Mojo dialer. Again, I'm not even affiliated with them either, but you'll upload that list. You'll like pay $150 for the dialer, and you'll just call all of them and say, hey, would you ever consider a cash offer on this property? They say no. Okay, call the next person. So just do that. I did that for months until I found my first one. And then after I got that one, I was like, this is a lot of work. And so
it sounds like a lot of work. As you're going through it, I'm like, damn.
But not getting paid.
But a lot of people, that's like all they do, and they make $1 million, $2, $3 million a year. Like, you know, there's a couple guys I know who are crushing it. I mean, I know a guy that's his entire business model out of California, and he makes about $1 million a month. And like that's like the entire business model. He has a whole team and everything.
Well,
but
California has a lot of houses that fit that bill, and as we said, California's market allows for different kind of margins, right?
Yeah, but let's say, you know, you're only a tenth as, you know, as fortunate as that guy, or I don't even want to say fortunate, make it sound like he got lucky, but most people I know would be happy with $1 million a year, you know. So
I need to really narrow this down for people, because the numbers he's talking about for him are kind of normal, right? But scale $1 million back to $10,000. If you're making $10,000 a month off of making calls on a dialer, right? If you're making $10,000 a month, that's 120 grand a year. I think a lot of people watching this are making half of that with their salaries, right?
yeah,
Telling somebody they can make an additional $10,000 a month, this will quickly become better than your main job.
And you got to accept rejection too,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of rejection in that.
yeah,
But a lot of it is just timing and just having the right call at the right time when the person on the other line is desperate or just is in a situation where they just got to get out. It's just happenstance sometimes, right?
And real quick, because I need to yell at you guys, don't tell me you don't have the time, okay? We know what your watch hours are on your phone. We know that you're spending an hour and a half a day on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Netflix. You're spending probably 3 to 4 hours a day on social media and television. If you converted those hours into doing what he just told you, filling out a dialer, making calls, what do you think you could turn that into financially, right? One of the biggest things we hate around here is when people say they don't have time. You've got plenty of time. You just have to decide better to use it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And so that's how I got my first deal. And that took me, it took me 9 months personally, but I really don't know anyone else who has taken that long for. And for me, I just didn't really know what I was doing. I mean, I didn't have a good script. I didn't have a script at all, actually. I didn't really know how to comp properties. I like was missing a lot of skills that if you just watch some videos online, or if you go through somebody's course or something like that, you'll pick up a lot of those skills, and it shouldn't take you 9 months. If I had a little bit more skills back then, it probably would have taken me like 3 months. And nowadays it'll probably take me like 3 days realistically. So it's just a skill that you have to build upon. I know that strategy works, what I just described, you know, downloading a list and all that. I mean, I did it. A lot of people do it. Personally, I don't really do too much of that anymore. Now what I prefer to do is very similar, but instead of downloading a list of homeowners, I'm just going to go download a list of realtors for the reason we just talked about, where if I, you know, instead of me having to call 50 individual homeowners, let me just call 50 realtors who have already each spoken with 50 homeowners that day. It's a lot more scalable, and you can get a deal a lot faster. So that's what we do, and it's a lot cheaper because I don't have to go pay for, you know,
A list.
Yeah. You might have to pay like $300 to get a list of local realtors, but that's still a lot cheaper than
Trust
paying,
me, guys,
you know.
they call me all the time. It ain't hard to find my number anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's just everywhere. So let's speed run a few of these questions, because I think you can knock them out, and you've actually knocked a few of them out already.
Cool.
Right? What are the requirements for wholesaling in an area? Just basic requirements.
Nothing. I mean, make some phone calls. I mean, in some areas you might need a real estate license, but not in most states.
You don't.
No.
You can literally go to Google, right, and just type in, do I need a real estate license to wholesale in my area?
I think Oklahoma, South Carolina, Illinois, I think those, and there might be a few more. I want to say there's like 7 or 8 that you need a license for.
But most states not.
Right.
Right. Okay.
In Nevada, no.
No license here.
Next thing, how do I determine the value of a property? You said earlier that you have a calculator that you'd be able to send out. We're going to put his calculator in the link. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So the calculator will help you figure out how much you can offer for the property. But before you can ever even use the calculator, you need to figure out how much the property would resell for after you renovate it. So to determine that, you need to comp the property. Comping it just means comparing that house to other houses in the area that are very similar to it. So for instance, if you have a 1,100 square foot single family in Henderson, that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage built in 2004, you're not going to compare that to something, on the east side that was built in the 60s. You need to find something in that same area that's very comparable.
Do you comp it like an appraiser does? Do you do last 6 months?
I look at last 6 months typically. If
go.
there's nothing, I'll take a look at the last 365 days to see just to get an idea. But I like to look at the last 6 months. That's a whole different topic, but yeah. So you comp it. Just take a look at what other houses in that area are selling for, and that'll give you a really good idea of what yours will sell for after you renovate it. Yours might sell a little bit more if you're fully renovated, but I wouldn't really bump up that number too much. Once you have that number, then you can punch all the other numbers into the calculator, which we'll leave below for sure.
Do you use an AVM system, automated valuation system?
No, I would never trust that in a million years because, if it's just like that could be good for like a quick underwriting, but let's say that the computer thinks it's worth like 50 grand more than what I see the comp selling for. Because something that'll happen all the time is this just happened like 2 days ago. So there will be a property listed at a certain price and we'll offer significantly below that. Let's say it's listed at 500,000. And I think fully renovated, that thing would only sell for 450. So as is, it'll never be worth 500, or at least not anytime soon. So if it's worth 450 renovated, I probably need it closer to 300 unrenovated. And so they'll be sitting on the market at 500,000, and they'll say, "Oh, we already have this appraisal report saying it's worth 500,000." Okay, if it was worth 500,000, why has it been on market like 200 days? And so for that same reason, I would never trust what like an AVM or like an automated system says that the house is worth. Like, I don't care what your stupid technology says. I care what the comp say. It's no different than like if an appraiser says like, "Oh, it's worth this much." There's no comps, that nothing has sold in that area for this amount. And if that were really what it was worth, the house shows well. It's vacant. It's not it's not a difficult property to get into. How come it's been sitting there for forever, right? So for that same reason, I really wouldn't trust what like the Zestimate says or what the
Never. Pro tip number 1, never ever trust Zillow's Zestimate. That shit has never been correct in the history of the universe, and it's not. It's a marketing company, not a real estate company.
Yeah, and I'm we do use like the Zestimate or like the average, the AVM, all that stuff for like very quick, like back of the napkin.
Yeah.
But when we're really trying to like narrow, or mainly it's like if I'm driving and like you call me, you're like, "Hey, I have this like property. What do you think?" I'll like punch it in Zillow. I'll see it says like 280 is what it's worth. I'll see it's 1,000 square feet, and you're telling me it just needs a full renovation. I'll be like, "Oh, I probably need around like 180, 175, 185, somewhere in that ballpark." But other than that, there's like really no reason to use that.
You look directly at the comps.
Yeah.
Common sense.
Right. And guys, if you have a realtor you partner with or work with, we can run comps on a property in like 10 seconds, right? I can find the last 6 months of anything sold anywhere, right? This isn't something that is overly complicated. What I'm trying to tell you guys is there's a bunch of tools that you guys have that Ray is sharing with you guys that you can use to come up with pretty accurate comps. Like legitimately, it's a 25, 30-second process for me, and I'm sure he has a system that quickens it him for his well. So like, this isn't something hard. If it sounds like it's hard, if it sounds like something that's overly complicated, trust me, you sit down and talk with Ray, just DM him, reach out to him. He'll explain to you the process. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I learned it pretty quickly, and I'm sure Ray can teach you guys pretty quickly as well. Right?
Yeah, I even have some videos about it, like 30-minute long videos. If you don't want to chat with me, you can
drop the YouTube plug. Tell him.
Yeah. Oh, it's just the Ray R. Rodriguez. Type in how to comp a property, how to determine ARV, something like that. It'll pop up.
It'll pop right up. We'll try
Or
to give it
DM
to
me.
you
I'll send you
guys.
the link.
Next question is, how do you negotiate with sellers, right?
Okay.
Sellers always think, remember, they raised their family in this property, they raised their kids in this property, they fell in love in this property, blah, 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 blah. They've been having sex in this property for the last 20 years. They think it's the best thing ever,
Yeah.
right? How do you negotiate through their emotions and their feelings?
Yeah. So nowadays we don't even really talk to sellers. We're just talking to realtors. But we did that for a while. So the first deal we got from that, but then for like 2 years we didn't do any direct to seller, and then for like 7 or 8 months I was spending a lot of money direct to seller marketing. I mean, at the peak of it, we were spending like 40 to 50 grand a month direct to seller marketing. So I'm pretty familiar. You know, we talked to a lot of homeowners. With how that works. So we have like a 7-step process. We introduce ourselves, like we set the expectations. We ask if we ask certain questions to see if there's any like roadblocks that are going to end up coming up. But we just ask them like, what is it that they want for the property? So if they fill out a form on our website, they put the address in, we'll see it's like a $400,000 neighborhood. We'll just get that from Zillow, literally, like we won't even comp it. So someone fills out a form on our website, we'll call you within seconds. I mean, at the latest, like within a few minutes. We'll like introduce ourselves, kind of set the expectation for the call. And step like 4 or 5, we'll just ask you like, how much do you want for the property? And so let's say you say 400,000. The exact line that we use is, so like we'll look on Zillow, we'll just look at the estimate.
Ross roleplay. I'm the seller, right? You
Okay.
called me and I'm like, Mr. Ray, I'd love to sell my house to you, but I've raised my kids in this house. It's wonderful. It's standing tall. We've done a few things to the house. It's pretty good. I'd like to sell it for $400,000.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So, let me, how would I pick? Okay. So typically, we call, we'll like introduce ourselves. Before I ever, if the seller brings it up, okay, great, we can chat about price. But before I ever bring up the price, I typically want to find out what their motivation is. So, and most of the time, the seller isn't like super like, hey, like this is what I want for it, like right off the bat. They're gonna want to have a little conversation with you first. They want to give you the whole spiel.
They always want to share their backstory.
Yeah. So we're chatting with them. We're asking them a couple of questions. Then we'll ask them what the motivation is. Like right after we get the motivation from them, we're gonna ask them for price. So in this case, you just gave me 400,000. So I already looked on Zillow to see what the estimate is. We haven't comped it, but we're gonna offer you half of that. So here's kind of how we do it. So we ask you like, hey, we've been on the phone for a couple minutes now. I mean, what even kind of had you considering selling the property? So you're gonna give us your motivation, and we'll acknowledge that. Be like, oh, so if it's something like negative, we're not gonna be like, oh, great. If you're saying, oh, well, X, Y, and Z passed away, and so I need to move back to my hometown or whatever. We acknowledge
Sorry
that.
about your loss, of course.
So sorry about that. I mean. Not sure if you've kind of had a second already to think about how much you would want for that property, and that's when you say 400,000. Be like, okay, yeah, I can certainly appreciate that. Let me jot that down here on my computer. I'm taking a look here at my database. Let me see, just to kind of get an idea of what other home buyers in the area are paying for off-market properties similar to yours. And keep in mind, Mr. Brandon, this is not our offer at all. This is just what I see here. Other properties in that area have sold for off market. Looks like properties here are selling anywhere between, and keep in mind, it's not our offer, just what I see other companies have paid, anywhere between like 190,000 to like 230,000. And again, that is not our offer at all. But what would you say if another investor were to offer you something like that? And so then like they'll say something like, oh, heck no, I would never sell my property for that low, right? Like I was hoping for like at least like 370 or something. So they've already came down from like 400 all the way to 370. And I can definitely, if it's a $400,000 house, I can for sure pay way more than like whatever 190 to like 2 whatever I said. I can probably pay closer to like 280 for it. But these leads are expensive. Every time someone clicks on my Google ad link, I pay $583, like whether it's a deal or not, like whether I ever get you on the phone or like not. So it's an expensive marketing channel. So I want to see how much money can I make on this? Like obviously, hello. At least I can admit that. But anyway, so we're chatting with you. You started at 400, you came down to 370. then we'll just kind of continue from there. Be like, hey, again, like that's not, that wasn't like our offer. It sounds so. Let's say we told them like 190 to, I forgot what number I came up with it. Let's say I said like 190 to 220, and then they started at 400. They came to 370. Be like, yeah, no, I would have definitely told them to kick rocks as well. That's way too low. I don't know how these other investors are getting away with this. I'm guessing if the company was able to like come up with up to like 230, 240, that still probably wouldn't be enough. And they're like, no, that still definitely wouldn't be enough. I mean, it's got to, like at least like mid threes, like at least like mid 350. It's like, hey, I'm gonna go to bat for you when I chat with my manager. I'm not the one. So early in the conversation, we set the expectations. So basically, what that means is we introduce ourselves, then we set the expectation. Meaning, we're gonna tell you how this call typically works. So we're gonna ask you some basic questions about your property and situation. If you feel like we're not a good fit for each other, just let me know at any time. Now, if we are a good fit, what I am going to do is I'm going to set you up for a phone call with my home buying specialist. He's going to be the one who determines what we can, how much your property qualifies for. It's been a long time since I said this script, but he's going to be the one who determines how much your property qualifies for. So you're already setting the expectation from that first phone call that they're not getting an offer from you right then and there. So that's why we call it the setter. Like the setter, the lead manager is having a conversation with the seller saying, hey, I'm going to go to bat for you. I'm going to tell him like, you're a really cool guy. I had a great conversation with you. I can't guarantee you anything. I'm just letting you know what I see other companies are paying for in the area, blah, blah, blah. And so, that seller will end up telling like the lead manager, typically, I mean, it can be anybody, but you want, I've seen a lot of companies have success with like a soft spoken female voice in that position. Like they will crush that. Especially some of the older dudes, like they will like start flirting with that girl over the phone. Like you listen to call recordings, like, they'll like eat up like young girl voice or whatnot.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys have success with it. I mean, on my team, it's just a bunch of knucklehead guys anyway. They do well. But yeah, so we're kind of like, we call it inching up. We're inching up on price a little bit, and like we're getting them to come down. But the biggest way that we just end up closing them on that second phone call, on that closer call, isn't even really talking so much about price. It's just by having a really good understanding of what their motivation is. So we had this one lady, she reached out and she's like, hey, I'm in my 60s, but it's not even my house. It's my mother's house who's in her 90s. And so we went through like the whole like spiel, the whole script and everything. And they wanted 370 for that property. 370 was exactly what I thought it was worth.
Yeah.
But we found out their motivation was that they needed to move back to the Midwest where they were from. Because if I remember correctly, it's been a couple of years, but the mother had some health concerns, and so the doctor was saying, "Hey, if you don't move out of Vegas before summertime, the sun or like the heat, you're probably gonna have like another whatever it was called. I might be mixing up like two different homeowner situations now, but anyway, they needed to sell the property because her health was obviously more important than getting top dollar.
Sure.
And so she's owned this property forever, had a ton of equity, and so our offer, it was like $120,000 below what the 370. So it was like 250 or something like that. So we offered 250, but we understood the situation super well. Part of the situation was it's just two elderly ladies. They don't want to have to pack everything up and like ship everything, or it's just it's a lot.
Yeah.
So what we did was we paid $250 for the house or something like that. Plus, I paid an extra 10 grand for people to come over. Just had like three younger guys in their 20s and like early 30s. They packed everything up. Like they packed up that entire house. They put everything in boxes. Like I got a U-Haul truck. They loaded everything in there. They put all the beds, the tables, like the heavy items. They put everything in there. They packed everything else into like boxes, like into bags, loaded everything into the U-Haul. It was this like huge U-Haul truck. Then I paid somebody else to drive it from Vegas all the way to the Midwest, drive it there and back. They unloaded everything into the garage, I believe. Should have unloaded it into the house, but whatever. And then I paid them to drive the truck back so we can drop it back off, because they wouldn't let us like do like a virtual drop off or like drop it off at a different location. And so what's the story behind or like what's the point behind this story? If you really understand the situation or like what their motivation is, why they want to sell,
Yeah.
the price may not be all that important, because she only needed like $100 grand to go buy a brand new house, like in I think it was in South Dakota, I believe it was.
Yeah.
So with $250,000, she's more than set. And so if my offer would have just been, like 250 and nothing else, it probably wouldn't have worked out.
But it's the 250
Yeah.
plus the moving, plus making it easier on people, right? And
Relationship.
I think you said something that's really perfect. And everybody who's watched this needs to hear this. Not every person has price as the most important part of the selling of their home.
Yeah.
It's no different than, again, it's no different than any other business, right? Some people just want to get something done.
Yeah.
No matter what business it is, right? If you're a farmer, maybe you just really want to sell these apples and you want to sell them to somebody that you like, or you want to sell them to the closest place, right? Maybe you can get a better price if you do this. Maybe you don't want to do all the work that it goes into doing the price over there, right? Maybe you just want to do the easiest possible solution. And I think that's a big gap that you guys fill. And if you're someone who's starting from nothing, you need to understand this. You are filling a gap. You are filling a gap. Do most people just say, F it, I'll throw my house on the MLS so I can get top dollar? Sure. But there is still a large group of people where price isn't the most important thing. It's convenience, it's ease, it's something out of necessity, a health issue, whatever. That's more important to them than price. And that's the gap that you're filling here.
Right. And I think I read a stat somewhere, 96% of people end up selling their house for top dollar, and they should. If you're able to, if you have the time and the ability to go on the market and you don't need to sell in the next like 14 days, by all means, you should, you paid for that house, you earned it, you should get every single penny that it's worth. But we do have, a small percentage of the market where typically the people who sell us their houses, it's either a house in really bad shape that it can't sell on the market, like nobody would pay for this, or it's not in good enough shape to where a traditional loan would even qualify. I mean, that's Bill's neck of the woods there. So it's typically houses in like really bad condition that they're not financeable to begin with. So you need someone who will pay cash. And a cash buyer needs a discount to renovate it and resell it for what everything else in that neighborhood that is renovated is selling for. Or, we get them all the time where, we like our record is, I had somebody call me on a Thursday at like 5 p.m. and he's like, hey, do you think you can close escrow on this house by tomorrow morning before it gets foreclosed on? I'm like, dude, like, title probably isn't even like escrow hasn't even been opened yet. He's like, no, it has. We had another buyer, but X, Y, and Z happen, and they're not going to be buying it anymore. So if nobody buys it tomorrow, it's getting foreclosed on. The lender's not like pushing back this foreclosure at all. And so we came in and like we got that house. It was a gamble. Like I super gambled on that house, but
it was a good gamble.
Yeah, it's we still own it. It's in rehab right now. Like we recently bought this one. I was like, well, I think worst case this house sells for like $350. 2 comps have hit the market, and they're both in the low 400s. So I'm like, oh,
damn.
Thank God. Granted, those comps haven't sold yet, but we're way better looking than those. One of them went under contract. I think we're like treading in the right direction at least.
Sure.
But yeah, it's typically people like, for example, and we buy foreclosures.
How did
all the
that
time.
come to?
A realtor called a guy on my team because I have people on my team who like your job's also to go connect with realtors. So I'm leveraging the homeowner or the realtor. I don't even know actually, but instead of me calling 50 homeowners a day as we described, I'm calling 50 realtors a day that are each calling 50 homeowners. Yeah. But then to take it a step further, I'm then hiring people to go call more realtors for me because there's 20,000 of y'all here in Vegas. Like I can't possibly, so a guy on my team, shout out to Jerry, was like networking with realtors as he's supposed to.
Shout out to Jerry, man. We all know Jerry. What up, Jerry?
Yeah, shout out to Jerry. He got a realtor who sent that property to him, and that's kind of how that ended up happening. So,
and then you've done such a good job with the realtors; they keep thinking of you top of mind, just like you think of your finance guy top of mind.
Right. So exactly. So think about. Here's a really good example. So. Subject to, that's a whole separate conversation and a way different way of buying houses. But long story short, subject to is a different way to buy properties without like using cash or any of that. Anyway, there's certain situations typically where a seller doesn't have any equity at all, where subject to is the only way that makes sense to purchase that property. So there was this property on the market and someone else on my team kept following up with that agent saying, hey, your seller doesn't have any equity. If you guys aren't able to sell it where they're not losing money coming out of pocket, let us know. We'll take over the monthly payments. We'll pay you your commission, blah, blah, blah. So after 3 weeks or so of this guy on my team following up with the agent, they were like, yeah, we've been on the market for a while. It makes more sense to just sell it this way that you've been telling us about.
Yeah.
Anyway, we haven't even closed yet, right? Like we're in escrow. We should be closing tomorrow. We put this property under contract not even a week ago. Like it was a really, really quick turnaround time. And so Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. I guess this lady's having such a great experience with the guy on my team who's been like in contact with her and everything. She reaches out, and I'm not too sure what the full situation is, but she's like, "Hey, I have a realtor friend in another state who has a seller in this exact same situation as the one that you're helping us with. Is there any way you can help them out?" So the guy on my team calls that agent in another state, and now we have that one under contract that we're probably gonna end up like wholesaling because I don't really buy outside of Vegas.
Yeah.
But it seems like a deal. It's like a 2022 build property. It's in really good shape. Really low interest rate, like 3 point something percent. I think it's a 2021 build now that I think about it. It's like, yeah, late 2021. So I'm sure it looks like a nice area. Home looks awesome. I showed it to my fiance and she said, I wish I could grab a forklift and bring it from over there to Henderson. Like it looks like a really nice house, nice green backyard, stuff that we don't see out here. So I'm pretty sure I'll find a buyer for that and we'll wholesale it off. But the point is, we did, Jerian, I have a Jerry and a Jerian on my team. He did such a good job like with that agent, and that we haven't even closed on her listing yet. We should be tomorrow. That she's already referring us, more and more deals. So yeah, that's kind of how it works.
You're the top of the booty call list for this realtors now.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's always the goal. That's always the goal. Like
easy to work with.
Yeah, and like that's always the goal. It's not always about that one deal, even though the deal today is what pays us and keeps us fed.
It's referrals.
It's the relationship. Like the relationship is where the real money's at. I'm
trying to be on the booty call list, man. We trying to be booty calls over here, man. We trying to start relationships over here all day. Our final question, and it's perfect. How do I find a mentor in wholesaling? Right. Every time I go on TikTok, there's another kid who makes me feel bad about myself because they're usually like young as shit, doing wholesaling, right? And they all sound like they know what they're talking about. They all have their screens up and their prop streams and this and that. When you started from the beginning, I know you had a mentor in Ryan Pineda, right? How would you go about finding a mentor if you didn't have like a Ryan Pineda in your area? Yeah,
so you don't really need someone to be in your area when you're just starting out. I would highly, highly recommend you get someone in your area when you're trying to scale. Learn from my mistake, pay like over $100,000 for coaching, and that's a whole different story. But if you're just looking to learn the basics, it's not going to be very difficult to find like an online guru. I'm not even like an online guru myself. Well, I will say like 2 days ago, I started a school community, for $97 a month, and I haven't even like promoted it anywhere, and I really don't plan on it besides maybe like on a couple videos here and there. But if you want to be a member, just send me a DM and I'll send you the link. And I'm
gonna be a member here by the end of the week.
We're both
right, serious.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a mentor in wholesaling, I mean, this is my guy right here, right? You can find him on the YouTube. Obviously, we already told you guys about that. If they want to DM you, what's the Instagram they should reach you at?
Yeah, at Ray R Rodriguez _. Just send me a DM, and I've been really good about getting back to all my DMs like ever since I started. So I pretty much respond to everybody. So as long as you're not saying anything like crazy in there, I'll get a response. I'll respond to you.
So for the people who are starting at zero and they're trying to work their way up to just forget $1 million, they're just trying to make 6 figures so they can kind of turn their life around, right? Knowing what you know today, if you were to start over with $0, let's say for some reason you had amnesia and you lost your cash buyer list, right? But you still retained your knowledge. How quickly do you think you would be able to start and go from 0 to making 6 figures?
If with still having the knowledge that I have, probably I'll make, probably in a month. But that's, if someone's starting out, they're obviously not, like if I switch industries today, I'm not going to have anywhere near the same amount of knowledge as someone who's been in it. So realistically, if you're starting out, you can make 6 figures in your first year. I mean, I did. It took me 9 months to get my first one. But after I got that first one, I was like, oh, I understand it now. And, I kind of said that like that Lethal Shooter guy anyway. But
I understand it.
That's another, I don't know if you know who Lethal Shooter is.
He's a boomer. He don't know shit.
I didn't think you would know who that was. But anyway, I'm a basketball fan. But anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so it took me like 9 months to get my first one, but after that, I was like, oh, I understand how this works now. And so before that year ended, I ended the year at $125,000. So I made like $3,000 the first 9 months, and then like $122,000 the next 3 or 4 months. So Really, I mean, you could do it in a year. What I would do if I were you, if you're willing to do it like full time, I would spend a couple hours a day making lowball offers on as many properties as I can that are listed on Zillow. If you have access to the MLS, even better. But if not, just go on Zillow. And if they're asking 300,000, comp it. If you determine that house is worth, 350 renovated, make them an offer for 230 or whatever price you need it at. You make enough of those, you spend a couple hours a day doing that. I mean, it's literally impossible that you don't get one. We closed on one, I think, on Monday or Tuesday of this week. They were listed at 370, 380, somewhere in that ballpark. We sent them an offer for 260. The agent emails us saying, "Hey, we rejected a 275 a couple days ago. I don't think they're going to take your 260, but I'll present it." An hour later, please see attached accepted offer. I'm like, whoa. So we just closed on that one from that exact strategy, just sending out lowball offers. And I mean, we pick up like 1 or 2 a month just from that. And that's just from that strategy. So if you're willing to really commit, spend a couple hours a day doing that. I would probably spend a couple hours a day making cold calls to realtors. So we get maybe 1 or 2 deals a month just from cold calling random realtors as well. And then the money in that strategy is most of the realtors you call today, they're going to tell you they don't have anything for you. Ask for their permission to stay in contact with them. So if Brandon gives me permission to stay in touch, even though today he may not have anything. Okay, here's a funny example. I met Brandon maybe a month ago. We stayed in touch. He didn't necessarily like have a property for me a month ago, but today when I walked in, he's like, "Hey, you know what? I might have this one for you. I'm going to send you the address after this podcast." Right? So you want to cold call the realtor. They may not have anything for you that day. Don't be like, "Oh, you don't have anything. Waste of time." Yep. Hang up on them. No, build a relationship, stay in touch, so you can become top of mind, and you'll win in one of 2 ways. They'll either have something for you right then and there, which will happen like once or twice a month, or they'll have something for you in the future, which is like where the real money comes. Because then you have, let's say, 1,000 relationships built. Literally, I was in Puerto Rico. I made $100,000 in like a week while I was in Puerto Rico, which I don't typically make $100,000 in a week. That'd be incredible. Then I'd be like Bill. But
Ooh, I wish.
But my whole team was like, "Dang, dude, like you must be like crushing it, working your butt off out there." Meanwhile, I'm like sitting at the beach, and so the way
Sipping
and so, like,
Mai
I
Tai.
told my team, I said, "Hey guys, the work that I was mainly talking to like the newer guys on my team who I make cold call all the time. I'm like, guys, the work that I'm having you guys do isn't just because I want to hear your like beautiful voices on the phones all day. It's because I'm telling you, all 5 of the deals that I got while I was out here, they all came from relationships that I had previously built with agents. There's this one agent that I had cold called her almost 2 years ago, and she didn't have anything, that made sense for me at the time. But we had a great conversation. We followed each other on Instagram, and I've been sliding up on her stories ever since. She slides up on mine. We're friends now. I'm out there in Puerto Rico. She calls me and she's like, "Hey, I have this for you." And I looked at it. I was like, "Oh, that's a $25,000 payday all day." Then this other agent who originally we found her through cold calling as well. She called me and she was like, "Hey, I have this property. What would you offer for it?" I like threw a number out there really quick, and then she calls me back saying they said they would take that. And I was like, wow. So we bought that one. I think, God willing, everything goes well, we'll make like 60 grand on that one. Then I had this other one that I think I had just came back from Puerto Rico or whatever, but I was in Jerry's office. I was talking to him about something, and this realtor calls me. I've done a couple deals with this lady. We talk like twice a year, I swear. And I was like, "Oh, watch this be like one of the times she's calling me. This must be a deal." I'm like, I'm gonna step out real quick. So I come back to the office like 5 minutes later. I'm like, "Bro, I like it. It was an address she sent me. I like it. She said she can get this offer accepted for me tonight. I think we'll make 50 grand on this one." He's like, "Dang, bro, like that's crushing."
Relationship
So it's
building,
like,
right?
yeah, just building relationships. Call agents, text agents. Like agents probably get annoyed with like random texts. I'm sorry,
We do.
but
We do. It's okay.
but it is what it is.
timing.
Like it is what it is.
We do it to people. They do it to us.
Yeah.
That's the game. But I will tell you, some of the best advice he's giving you guys right here is call me, right? Like a lot of times I might be busy, whatever. But if I like you, see, I like Ray, right? I know if we go under contract, I'm working with somebody that I like, which is 99% of what realtors want to do anyway,
Yeah.
right? I would rather give Ray the deal first than deal with somebody that I don't know and might not like doing business with, right? So spend time with realtors. Don't just text them like, "Hey, you got any business?" I don't know your face. I don't know who you are. I don't know if doing business with you would be fun.
Yeah.
Ray, I meet him in person. I see him. I get to talk to him. I get to engage with him. If you're going to do the strategy where you contact realtors, Go to realtor networking events, meet them, show them your face, share a lunch with them, pretend that they're a real person. I'm way more likely to work with you if I've met you in person than if you're just some random texter. I don't know who you are on the phone, right? So if that's a strategy you're going to use, please do what Ray does and actually stay in contact with us, actually meet us in person, treat us like a normal person instead of just some kind of pipeline. We are that, but at least pretend we're not, right?
Yeah, and I'll agree 100%. And you know, it sounds kind of bad being like, oh, like they're a pipeline. But honestly, and like yes, but I never really see it that way because I like these are my friends. I spend like real estate is pretty much like my whole life, honestly. You know, like I love Jesus Christ and my family and all that, but I spend and just like all of us, like we spend so much time like doing this that I'm talking to the same people like all day. You know, like these realtors, like you're genuinely my friend. I don't just see you as like, you know, like one day this person's a paycheck. You know, like they might be,
but it is. Don't get me. When my friends buy houses from me, they're my friends. But I'm also like, shit, I can't wait for you to tell your friends about me so I can make even more money, right? It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. I'm a hoe, but Ray treats me like a lady, and I like that, right? I like that. I know that what he wants is to make money off of our business, and that's okay, but he doesn't make me feel that way, and that's why Ray's my guy. What were you going to say, Bill?
No, that's it. I think it's relationships. It's doing the right things. It's easy to work with, and you make it happen.
Yeah. Ray, one more time, tell them where the best they can find you guys. I'm not joking. I've spoken to a lot of wholesalers. Ray is the guy. The information he's giving you guys as rapid fire as he can, because he really wants y'all to learn, is good information. He's someone who started from here and worked his way to the top through sheer effort and hard work. And I hate people with excuses, and Ray is not somebody who makes excuses. So if you need someone to mentor you, if you need someone to learn from, Ray, where do they find you?
Yeah, you can always send me a DM on Instagram at RayRRodriguez_. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways we can work together. If you want to learn from me, like we chatted about, I have a $97 a month school now. You know, I'll answer any of your questions in there, either myself or someone on my team, but probably going to be me anyway. Or if you have at least $100,000 you want to invest with me, you know, I'll take your money. You know, we can chat, talk about how your money's protected. If you're a realtor, you want, you know, let's hang out, let's do some deals together. I pay buyer's agent commissions, so if you're already getting 3% from the seller, and I mean, ideally they pay you the full 6%, but if I need to pay you 3% for representing me, I mean, let's get it done. Or even if you want to be on my buyers list, right? Like just send me a message. So, or if you want to buy a home, I'm not a realtor, but I'll put you in contact with these guys. So whatever you need, you know, I'll
join
take care
Ray's
of you.
booty call list. We will have his information in the description below.
And school is SKOOL.
Yeah, we'll have that link below as well in case you guys want to join into his wholesaling school. Ray, thank you for coming by.
No, thank you guys.
Bill, I know you and I didn't get to chat this much, but we do have a prediction video coming up after this. So if you guys need a lender in these transactions, Bill, where do they contact you?
BillGaylord.com.
And as always, I'm Brandon from Vegas. Make sure you guys stay tuned to the video for all of the best in real estate education and Las Vegas updates. And as always, I'm going to be my neighbor. Peace, peace,
You guys.
peace, 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 peace.